Hello, my name is Daniel, and this is the Engineering Success Podcast, episode 71. Hope you guys are doing great. Life's good here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're having a little bit of a cold spell right now, but life is good. Battling through some illnesses in the household, but we seem to be coming out on the other side. Baby E, talking in context. Very exciting stuff there. Life is good. I'm actually getting to cover a song by Evanescence, "Bring Me to Life," that I've on piano with my church band on Sunday, which is something that I've always dreamed of doing. If you don't know this about me, I grew up trained classical pianist and play in my church band, learning how to read by charts, and I get to cover a song that I've always wanted to cover. So that's very exciting. Very, very exciting. So, anywho, that's the life update. Let's get into the next part of our podcast where I thank our supporters. Thank you to John Ott and Leroy Jenkins for supporting the podcast. For $10 a month, you can get a shout out at the beginning of every single episode. Like these two are top tier supporters, and then you can also be on my top tier supporter wall on my website, www.engringsuccess.com, engineeringsuccess.com. And you can email me there if you want to be a guest on the podcast at daniel@engringsuccess.com. Okay, well that's the intros. Let's get into the first segment of our podcast, which is This Week in LinkedIn Lunatics, where I take things from Reddit, usually from the subreddit LinkedIn Lunatics or adjacent subreddits like this week's r/recruiting hell, and I react to them because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on LinkedIn nowadays. Let's see what there's to say. All right, it says, at least they're honest. What are they honest about? They're looking for an agile project manager and candidate profile, desired experience and qualification, experience in the delivery of projects in the agile environment. Asterisk, white males under the age of 60 years of age.
I expect nothing, and I'm still let down.
Is that DEI? Oh man, that's a hard one to see. I guess they said the quiet part out loud, and it makes you wonder how prevalent that actually is. It's sad. It's really sad that that's the reality that companies hire that way. And but I mean, think about yourself and how you hire people. Oftentimes, if you're an engineer, you try to recruit, you try to do the thing, be a good alumni and recruit people from your university. So you're going to recruit people that went to the same university as you. So then people that are the demographics of you that also went to your university are more likely to get the jobs at your company. And do you have to be a white male under the age of 60 years old to be enthusiastic, driven, and self-motivated with its focus on customer service, experience in the delivery of projects in an agile environment, experience with other project frameworks such as RUP, OUP, DSDM, Lean, Kanban, to have very strong interpersonal skills, to successfully support the service owners for project delivery? No, you don't. So I guess DEI is a really hot button topic right now, but this is why it exists, to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, equity and the ability to see opportunities. Because again, if we don't have diverse student bodies in our universities and we keep on recruiting people from our universities, then we're going to keep on recruiting the same types of people into our jobs. And then inclusion, when you include people that are different, diverse from you in your circles, then you have better outcomes. That's what the research says, is that project teams that are filled with people with diverse experiences are more productive, more successful. I don't know. It's kind of sad as somebody that has watched things that exist for a reason, like, I'm a white Asian male, and I don't feel like affirmative action hurt me. I don't feel like diversity, equity, and inclusion hurt me. I was able to get a great education, live a very privileged childhood, get a great job, have a great start to my career. Diversity, equity, and inclusion hasn't hurt me. It's helped a lot of people. And it's just sad to see that whenever we realized that there was a problem, we put systems in place to help deal with it and create more productive teams. And it's just sad to see companies and schools and like the Army and West Point and the Naval Academy, they cut funding to the Society of Women Engineering chapters and the National Society of Black Engineers chapters and the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers chapters, the student chapters, which none of those groups are restrictive to just people that are of those demographics. I was a member of my university's Society of Women Engineering chapter. I don't know. It's sad because unfortunately you have this very loud group of people that, I don't know, maybe they feel slighted. They feel like that they're better than other people. They had more, I guess, in their view, opportunities than them, but not like the quality of students at these universities has gone down because of diversity and equity and inclusion. I don't think there's any metrics that prove that. So, anywho, this is crazy. This is lunatic. This is 10 out of 10 candidate profile recruiting white men under the age of 60. I mean, again, that's why diversity, equity, and inclusion programs exist, so that way people that aren't white males under the age of 60 get the opportunity to at least interview for a job, because otherwise you're just gonna hire all the people that your current people refer from their university, and if the university is not diverse, then you're just gonna have a bunch of the exact same person on your team. So, anywho, maybe a somber start to the episode, but it's just I'm not. I'm not pleased with the way things are going. And we are back with the next segment of our podcast, college questions for those pursuing a college degree in engineering. So here we go. Can I still major in civil engineering if I don't personally enjoy tunnels or waterways? And they go on to say, hello, I'm a junior in high school and I'm contemplating my major. I really enjoy creating and seeing things come to life and extensively love math. So I decided I definitely want to go into some sort of engineering field. I'm thinking of doing civil engineering since of all the things I want to design, check the infrastructure of bridges, buildings, roads, and working in teams. But I don't really enjoy waterways or tunnels that much. I'm already dreading it as I'm typing it. Is there something more similar to what I want to study, or should I just stick it out? Or is there a job I can get with a civil engineering degree that doesn't involve those types of projects? I couldn't find the career flare. Apologies. I don't know if this post may get taken down since it's almost asking for advice, but I've researched maybe not enough on Google, but it hasn't been too much use. Yeah, you can definitely major in civil engineering if you don't enjoy tunnels or waterways. In fact, at my company, there's people that specialize in tunnels. There's people that specialize in waterways. There's people that specialize in highways. And there's people that specialize in bridges. So you can get a civil, and they all have civil engineering degrees. So you can get a civil engineering degree, and then you could focus in any one of those things, or depending on the nature of the company that you work for, a combination of those things. I'm assuming that the highways and bridges folks may work together on interdisciplinary teams whenever the highway extends into a bridge. But yeah, you can definitely still major in civil engineering if you don't enjoy tunnels or waterways. You just don't specialize in tunnels and waterways. Civil engineering is an extremely broad field. There's a lot of I mean, there's also people that go into geotechnical. There's people that go into siting and survey, land surveying. There's a lot of special subspecialties within the civil engineering career field. Maybe check out the r/civil engineering subreddit to see people that talk about that. But yeah, you can definitely major in civil engineering if you don't personally enjoy tunnels or waterways. That's a good question. It's a reasonable question for somebody that is new to pursuing the field of engineering and kind of, thinking about what engineering is. It's a good question to ask as you try to learn more about what engineering is. All right, next question is, should I change the name of my degree? Hey guys, I recently had an interview where the interview questioned the validity of my Master's of Science degree in electrical engineering because I chose not to do a master's thesis. This is the first time something like this has happened to me. I don't really know too much about the market right now, but am I cooked if I didn't do a thesis while getting my degree? Should I change my MS degree to an MEng, Master's of Engineering? Any advice would be helpful. Sounds like the interviewer that you interviewed with just is persnickety and thinks that the way that they did their Masters of Science is the only way that Masters of Science degrees were awarded. But if you got a Masters of Science, then you got a Masters of Science. That's your degree. No, you shouldn't change the name of your degree um, on your on your transcript. No, that would be kind of silly, and especially silly to do that because of one interviewer at a company that you probably won't ever want to work for. It's kind of weird. Honestly, it's kind of really weird behavior for an interviewer to question the validity of anybody's degree, unless maybe you just think that the person came across as extremely incompetent. But even then, that's not appropriate, in my opinion. And yeah, the top comment is, interviewer is a twat. Plenty of non-thesis accredited master's degrees out there. I hire and wouldn't think twice about it. Next comment is, interviewer is definitely a moron. So no, no, you're good. Next one. Is a major in civil engineering with a minor in business administration the right degree for me? I'm a second year student at a community college for baseball. I took bad advice from my advisors and was told to take whatever classes I want as long as they fill out my AA requirements. Now only in pre-calc 2 and haven't taken general chemistry, physics, or any engineering classes yet. I have a high GPA of a 3.85, but in classes that don't mean anything, like intro to psychology and sociology, nutrition, fitness concepts, intro to music, etc. Construction and being a project manager, eventually a builder, is the career field I believe I want to go into. I have strong connections through my family in the construction industry. I've always loved building and engineering things. I think civil engineering with a minor in business administration is the degree suitable for me. It seems flexible if I want to go another route in the construction field. I don't think construction management is worth it for a degree. From a civil engineer's point of view, what do you think? How many years in school for the degree? Will I have to take more credits in math, chemistry, etc. at my community college after receiving my AA to go to university for civil engineering? Can I take those credits at the university? Is civil engineer with a minor in business administration the right degree for me? All right. So to answer your first question, yeah, it probably is, though I wouldn't necessarily extend my graduation timeline to get the business administration minor. I don't think that what you get out of the minor is really only what you learn in the classes. Is not necessarily, nobody's going to hire you and be like, oh my goodness, I needed to hire this a civil engineer with a business administration minor. No, they're hiring civil engineers, and then your business acumen that you pick up in any particular business classes you take, and honestly, the business acumen that you get from working in the industry is what's going to carry water for you, much more than your business administration minor. So I would not take I wouldn't really mess with the business administration minor. I'd just get the civil engineering degree. And then you can kind of pick up the business skills through training that your company that you work for provides, through taking a couple electives here and there if you absolutely want to, and maybe it doesn't cost too much more. You ask, will I have to take more credits in math, chemistry at my community college after receiving my AA to go to university for civil engineering? Can you take those credits at the university? You can take them either way. You can take them at your university that you transfer to. You can take them at your community college. I think that what you need to do though is you need to spend some time thinking about what your plan is. It's and this may be a step one, right? You know, asking people for advice, but I think you need to think about what community college you want. I mean, what college and university you want to transfer to. Look at the degree requirements and the coursework requirements. Now, if you don't know exactly which one, if you're going to a big state school and majoring in civil engineering, most of the course structures for all the state universities in your state are pretty much the same. And their requirements for what can and can't transfer from any community college are also pretty much the same. But yeah, you need to look at what school you want to what your timeline is for leaving community college. Maybe it's 2 years. You get your AA, and see what courses you're scheduled to leave community college with. And then you need to look at the course schedule for that major, and you need to match which courses that you have already gotten. And then once you match them, you need to then review the university's website to see if they'll accept transfer credits from a community college. And then what you do is you look through the course schedule, you see which classes are prerequisites for other classes, and then you build out your schedule of what classes you're going to take throughout your entire time at university. This is a engineers solve problems. So welcome to problem solving number one for you. It's how am I going to graduate with an engineering degree? So look at what courses you're taking, look at where they slot in and what they can transfer in for at the university that you intend to transfer to, and then plan out a schedule, what classes you will take each semester until you graduate. And then you'll see how long it'll take you to graduate. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere on the magnitude of 3 to 4 years for you to graduate, because as you've said, you haven't really taken any courses that are related to your engineering major. Maybe if you string in a couple summer classes, you can get it down to 3 years, maybe 2 years. I doubt you'll be able to finish your engineering major in 2 years after this community college stint. I think that you'll be lucky if you can do it in 3 years. And unfortunately, because you've only taken very general classes, it might be, depending on the university you transfer to, if it could be a situation where there's a prerequisite that's stacked onto another prerequisite, that's stacked on another prerequisite, and it's 4 years. So you need to do some planning. Maybe look into what kind of summer courses you could take to kind of pick that timeline back up. But it's really going to be an individual journey. We don't know all the classes you've taken. We don't know what universities you're considering transferring to, and we don't know what they'll accept and what their transfer requirements are. So it's just a matter of solving the problem for yourself. And the nice thing is that, again, if you go to any university's website, I'll go to my university's website. This is kind of cool. I think this is, and most universities should have something like this. But so my university has what's called a degree plan, and what I did was I used this degree plan as my baseline spreadsheet, and then I kind of took it from there to plan out what classes I'd take each semester. So I took this, and I was like, this is what I want to take each semester. These are the courses that I'm considering to take each semester. And then I planned out all 4 years till I graduated. So my university, for example, if you were to transfer to my university, you wouldn't be able to graduate in less than 4 years after community college. But that's just because it's a small liberal arts school that has some other requirements. If you transfer to a state school, it may be different. So yeah, so go to the university's website that you're thinking about transferring to, look at the 4-year degree plan, see which classes you can transfer in, then look at the transfer credit requirements, make sure that you can transfer, and then start planning and solving the problem for yourself. You're going to be an engineer. You can solve problems. All right. Next question is, does GPA only matter until getting the first internship? Title, plus I'm a chemical engineering junior from University of Michigan, and my current GPA is about a 3.6. I'd say that it matters until you get your first job. Not to say that if you have a bad GPA, you can't just leave it off, but if for our jobs where your GPA matters and can differentiate you, like say for example, companies that only hire people above like a 3.5, 3.2, whatever, then then they may be looking at your GPA whenever you're applying, and they'll consider that. Also, if you work for a company, some companies, you get an internship with them, they give you a return offer, but they might ask for your transcript. And if your transcript comes back horrible with horrible GPA that you slacked off, then they may say, oh, this person doesn't have the work ethic we want, and they may drop your return offer. So, GPA, having a good GPA and getting your first internship does not mean that you can slack off for the rest of your college career. Having that internship on your resume will definitely help your resume, but again, it doesn't absolve you from trying hard in school. So, the answer is GPA does not only matter until getting your first internship. It matters a little bit more than that. And not to say that after getting my first internship and getting my return offer first semester of senior year, did I pull my foot off the gas pedal a little bit? Yeah, I did, but again, I wanted to keep it good enough. I knew that I was going to most likely return to the company that gave me my return offer for my internship. So, and I knew that my GPA was going to be okay. I didn't really stress about things as much. I didn't spend as much time trying to squeeze as many extracurriculars, I'm sorry, electives into my course schedule to try to make my resume brighter. At that point, I just, I was like, okay, I know what I want to do. Let's get a good enough GPA to get out of here. Keep my GPA above it. I had like graduated with like 3.55 or something like that, and move along. And that's what I did. So you can take off if you have a return offer. You can take your foot off the gas a little bit, especially if you want to go back to that company. But I wouldn't slack off. So let's see if everybody else agrees with me. Yeah, same thing. It matters until you get your first real job. Having internships makes it easier to get that first real job, but you still need a decent GPA to get your foot in the door. Is over 3.5 a decent GPA, or is it 3.7? And somebody says, I've been on hiring teams for half a dozen college graduate candidates at this point. 3.5 is good. I wouldn't think twice. 3.5 to 3.8 is the zone where interview just thinks they're smart enough and work enough to do the job. And the offer depends on your vibes at that point. Okay. It's not quite 3.9 to 4.0 where you're like, yowza. A 3 to 3.2 will raise eyebrows, but you can still get options by being a good conversationalist and have a nice internship. And below 3 is a yikes, and you really have to give off good vibes in person or like having a good internship on the resume. There are valid reasons to have lower grades, like a really bad year. My best man had a really bad freshman or sophomore year, and his GPA only recovered to a 3 by the end of the degree. He's still one of the most competent engineers I've met my age by a long shot. So yeah, you can GPA again. It isn't everything, but hey, you got a great GPA. It's a good thing on your resume. Having the internship on your resume is good. Don't tank your resume by slacking off. All right. And the last question in the college section of the podcast, and we'll move on after that. All right. Here we go. What my professor just sent to me about AI and cheating, and this is in the UCSD subreddit. I went far and wide to find this one. All right. I realize that getting code from AI or other online sites is an easy thing to do. It's like parking a new Ferrari in a bad neighborhood with the top down and the keys in it. You're simply asking to have it stolen. Here's what I want to say. I was recently asked to do contract work for a large aerospace company. During an interview, they gave me an oral exam. Anyone who has taken my C++ level 2 in assembly class should easily be able to pass this exam. The people who interviewed me said that about 80% of college graduates they interviewed cannot pass this exam. I fear that many of you are heading down the same path. Do not put yourself in a situation where you spent several years and thousands, some of you hundreds of thousands of dollars for a degree where you have learned little. Writing the code for these projects should be fun for you. If it is not fun, you should probably consider something else. Also, at some point, you may be asked to engineer software for something that has never been done. What will you do when NAI cannot give you the code? Ask yourself what you want to be, a code developer or a copier. And I got similar sentiments from my professors whenever I was in college, related to mechanical engineering for this web program Chegg, which people use to help themselves get through their homeworks. So yeah, I think that this comes back to the whole thing that college is an investment, right? So you get out of it what you put into it, just like your career is an investment. And people who don't learn anything in college are going to struggle in their jobs. And and when you struggle in your jobs, you struggle to find footing, struggle to find a launch in your career, you're going to set yourself back in your earnings potential and the money that you make throughout your career. The Money Guy show did a great analogy. It's like a XY axis, right? You have your X and your Y. I'll do it this way. XY axis, right? And the money that you earn throughout your career is the area under this curve of how much you make, right? Over the duration of your career. And when you go to college, then right, the area starts negative, right? So then you have to recoup that. So setting yourself up to be competent and knowledgeable, which is what the reason why you go to college in the first place, is to learn things to make yourself competent enough to do a job, right? um, will increase your likelihood of and you have your earning potential, and then increase the area under the curve. And that's, I know that careers about passion and stuff like that, but really, whenever you're talking about your security, your family's security, taking care of your goals in life, it all comes down to how much money that you can make and how much that you can do to provide for your family. So anything you can do to increase the area under the curve, you need to be doing, which is including doing things to learn them. Um, did I, in my college career, collaborate with my classmates on assignments and homeworks? Yeah, I worked with people within the honor code and whatnot, and I would check my work and confirm my work. But if I was ever in a position where I wasn't learning the material, then that was a massive red flag to me. Like if you're working on your homework assignments with your classmates and your teammates, and then you're like, if you get to a point where you're just copying things down, you're not. If you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, then you're you're kidding yourself. And what I found out, what I kind of came to realize, what I'm realizing in my career is that, I mean, even if you say that you think you're like, I didn't do all those little steps, but I know what I was doing generally. It takes doing the thing. It takes doing the thing that the minutia, understanding what the details are that go into the larger, greater picture of things, so you can understand why things are done the way they are to be effective. And skipping out on the details because you just want to focus on the big picture will set you back in your career, especially whenever you're early in your career. Because if you don't understand the details of why things are done the way they're done, and you just, oh, the output was okay, that'll lead you as a software engineer to build bad code, right? Because if you're like, input, I don't know, output, good, yay. And then what happens whenever you have a bug? And then you don't know what the problem is. Are you going to just ask ChatGPT to solve your bugs for you? Or even, in my job, early on in my role, I have project controls people supporting me, and I asked for reports, and I was getting outputs that were good, and just trying to drink through the fire hose of a bunch of different things in my job. Uh, I I just kind of accepted the outputs as true, and outputs are good. This is generally what I want. Good. And then I got my first question, right? Like, oh, well, hey, I don't understand why that's doing that. Well, Daniel, what's going on there? And then I was like, oh, I haven't had the chance to dig into that yet. And because I hadn't yet done the legwork of understanding the details of how things came together, I wasn't able in that one moment, in that situation, to troubleshoot and diagnose and talk about why things were the way they were. So, anyways, that's a rambly thing, but don't cheat. Don't lean on AI. Your papers that you write with AI, they suck. Um, they're horrible. I, I have enough friends in academia that could tell me that they can tell whenever things are written by AI. And goodness, you're going to school for computer science. That is your education, your college education in computer science is what sets you apart from people that know how to code. So maybe learn something about how to do computer science while you're in computer science school. Don't uh, don't just AI bot your way through college. All right. Anywho, that was that segment of the podcast. I'll be back later with the next segment, which is internship questions. All right, and we're back with our internship advice. The question is for interns is must be self-driven, able to work independently, a red flag? And the post was deleted by the OP. So they go on to say, I had a poor experience with my last internship. As the only intern on site, I had my projects and guidance from my mentor at first, but he was incredibly busy. I usually had to work on them alone. As a second year chemical engineering student, I didn't really get what I was doing. I was always told I could ask for help, but others in the facility didn't always know enough to help. It was a really small factory, but part of a bigger company, for context. I constantly felt clueless and like I needed help that I wasn't getting, but asking 1,000 questions made me feel incompetent. For the last few things left, I just couldn't push them all the way, and my mentor's consistent absence didn't help. I also didn't really enjoy the work, to be fair. It was very mechanical engineering adjacent, and I hated the factory. They hadn't had interns for a while due to COVID, and he was kind of young, so he didn't have a ton of experience with interns. What I pieced together about the last guy was that no one really knew him. They remembered he was tall and spent most of every day redoing the database at his computer alone. So, for listings that advertise independence, self starter, etc., is that a red flag? Or was this an abnormal experience? I really haven't had that kind of coursework that includes high level labs, detailed flow diagrams, or anything of the sort. It makes me think that'd be a restricting factor, if anything. I'm really scared of landing an internship only to repeat history. A lot of listings are vague about projects, say, must be able to work with minimal supervision, independently driven, and such. Okay, so the first question is must be self driven, able to work independently, a red flag? No, no, not at all. I think that you hire engineers to solve problems, and you need your engineers to be self driven and motivated to solve problems to be a successful engineer and to grow as an engineer. And they need to do it independently. You hire an engineer to solve problems. You don't hire them to be required to be handheld the entire time. That being said, your second question was, or was this an abnormal experience? I think it's a mixed bag. Internships are different, jobs are different. Some companies have more structured internship programs. Some companies have projects in mind for their interns. Some projects integrate their interns into the flow of active projects. Some companies integrate interns into an intern specific project that's really not even affecting the business at all. It's just like a side hustle to see if you are the kind of person they want to give a return offer to. So I think that it just depends. And I don't think that whether or not the job description for the internship says must be self driven, able to work independently is the red flag. I think, as an intern, it's a little bit harder to be selective with internships than maybe full time jobs, but there are ways that you can kind of feel these kinds of things out when you are interviewing for an internship. Because remember, when you're interviewing for a job or an internship or anything, you're not only interviewing for yourself, you're also interviewing the company to see if you think they'd be a good fit for you, not just them deciding whether or not they want to give you an offer. You're never required to take any offer that you get. So questions you could ask are like, hey, what kind of mentorship will I have in this role? Um, how many interns have you had at this job? Do the interns do active project work for like active ongoing things around the facility, or do they more so greenfield, their own unique intern specific projects? My internship that I did my junior year of college is a very structured internship program, and about 30% of my time was spent doing an intern specific project, and the rest of my time was spent doing active project work and helping out around the office. So it was a mixed bag for me. But again, every internship's different. And I think that based on your experience, maybe you could think of some tactful ways to ask questions whenever you are interviewing for your next round of internships to kind of feel out the place and see if it's related to you. That being said, you said you constantly felt clueless and like you needed help that you weren't getting, but asking 1,000 questions made me feel incompetent. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. I mean, nobody really expects an intern to really come in and solve all their problems. If a company is relying on the contributions of an intern to keep the company alive, most likely an intern that they only get for the entire summer, that's not a very successful company. So they probably don't. The internship really is more of a recruitment type thing, right? Trying to find really good people to come work for the company. And they get an entire summer basically to interview you before deciding to give you a full time job. Um, and then maybe if they get a little bit out of you, that's ideal. But you said you felt like you were asking 1,000 questions. I know that's probably an exaggeration, but a good bit of advice for you is to maybe have a conversation with your mentor. I know that they said they were constantly absent. They were probably overworked, is what they were, and they didn't really budget the time to really take care of an intern, which is unfortunate. Is not the case for some of the people that I work with. I actually talk to people and they say, "Oh, I can't take an intern because I don't have the time to give them a good experience." That's what my coworkers say when they talk about interns. For you, I mean, a conversation that I would have with my manager early on, whenever I realized that he was pretty absent, is like, "Hey, what's the best way for me to get support with you?" And then schedule a recurring, maybe weekly, one-on-one, or even like a daily or every other day stand-up meeting with your mentor, so that way, like a 15-minute just check in every single day where you have it on the calendar that you guys are checking in about what you're working on. If you structure things right, if you have like a structured time to ask questions, then that will make things really, I think, easier to get that kind of information out of your mentor. So you're kind of managing your manager, right? um, I remember my first internship that I had. I got the feedback, and this was some really good feedback from a really good manager. Thank you, Nathan, for being this person in my life. But I constantly was peppering him with little questions all the time, and some of the questions were questions that I already asked him before. So he kind of just like he said, "Hey, stop, Daniel, stop. I I need you to be more thoughtful about how you approach me for questions." I was like, "Oh, like I need you to be more respectful of my time." And maybe he didn't say it this way, but that's the way I took it, right? So what I did is I kept a notebook, and it was kind of like the Bible for interns. Like this is the every bit of notes, every single thing that you need to learn for every other intern, and it was kind of like the handoff documentation for the internship. And as part of that, I just kept all my notes, organized them, kept them very organized. And then when something came up that wasn't in my Bible, I jot it down, and then whenever I saw that he was available for questions, like he was like kind of in a lull, and he wasn't in the middle of something, then I say, "Hey, Nathan, I've tried these things. I'm stuck." That was the other thing. When I first started asking him questions, he'd be like, "Well, what did you try?" I'm like, "Nothing." And I was like, "Oh." So what I'm saying is take good notes, collect your questions. Don't try to pepper your manager with questions all the time. And also, whenever you do ask the questions, make sure that you've actually tried to solve the problem, because again, you're the aspiring engineer, right? You're the one that's going to be the problem solver. So you need to take the time, show that you've tried to solve the problem, and then obviously if you're stuck, then go ask for help. So, but no, being self-driven, able to work independently in a job description is not a red flag. And was your experience abnormal? No. Was it like the ideal perfect experience? No. There's better ones out there, but it was a pretty normal experience whenever as far as internships go. Will this hurt my career? I'm a freshman general engineering student at Texas A&M. I'm planning to apply for chemical engineering at the end of this semester. Okay, very exciting. I have a brother. that's at Texas A&M University, maybe you'll run into one another. The issue is, I am kind of worried about finding internships. I'm almost 19 and technically have never had a job. I didn't have time for that in high school because of how consuming band and some of my classes were. Hey, me too. I was in marching band and band in high school, and I didn't have time for a job either. They go on to say, I did try to work during the summer. I applied to multiple fast food jobs and never got hired. I ended up just volunteering at a pet shelter. Okay. Right now, I'm worried because I don't know how I'll get a summer job when I'm home for college. I'll be gone for part of June on a family vacation, and I probably can't work full time during July and August because I'll be taking 2 online classes. Will I still be able to find a chemical engineering internship when I'm a sophomore or junior? I have a 4.0 GPA right now and multiple clubs. The only thing I'm worried about is my lack of general work experience. You know what? That's a fair question. It that's great that you weren't in a position where you felt like you needed to work throughout high school, and it sounds like you don't really need to work during the school year to keep yourself financially afloat during college either. So it sounds like your parents have put you in a pretty good situation and you have a good support system. Um, I think you still will. I think that for you, you said you were involved in multiple clubs. Maybe try to get like an offership role or some kind of like responsibility for an event or something like that in the clubs that you're in. If you don't have one already, something that you can just put on where you had a responsibility and you were involved in the club more than just paying the dues and being a member. That'll give you something to talk about during your interviews. And then as for the work experience, I mean, to be honest, yeah, I probably would look a little bit more favorably upon a potential intern applicant that has worked a job before because they just know at least they have I know they have the responsibility of what it takes to show up to a job and that kind of thing. So that does ding you a little bit, but that's not necessarily going to be the thing that eliminates you from consideration of a potential opportunity. I don't think that that'll be the thing that knocks you out. You said you applied to multiple fast food jobs, never got hired. Yeah, apparently a lot of people that need a full-time fast food job are struggling to get them right now. I feel like the rise of the kiosk in these fast food joints are taking away opportunities for people to work in fast food jobs. You ended up volunteering in a pet shelter. You could probably put that on your resume. You could put that as work experience. You don't, I mean, just put it, you just, just have a section call it experience, and then just say, worked at the pet shelter, and put all the different responsibilities that you had and the dates, the duration of time from like month A to month B that you volunteered there, and just keep volunteering. That would be a good thing to put on your resume, and you don't have to necessarily separate it out as a volunteer section. Just put it with your experience, because especially if you did it pretty regularly. But I don't think that this is the thing that's going to hurt your career. What I will say is that June of 2025, you're going to be gone for family vacation. Summer after sophomore year and junior year, um, I think that if you don't land it, there's a chance that you, in general, just don't land an internship after your sophomore year. A lot of people don't land one. So what I would say is that, clear your summer for next year, and next summer, the summer after your sophomore year, and apply for internships, go to the career fair, be very prepared at your career fair, having applied to all the companies that are coming to your many career fairs that you have there at Texas A&M. You have some awesome career fairs. You have more career fairs at Texas A&M than I think engineering employers came to my career fairs whenever I was in college. So it's a great opportunity for you to interview, go to the career fair having applied to the companies, follow my best steps on how to prepare for a career fair. And then if you don't land an internship that summer, then go ahead and work a summer job that you can just put a work job on the experience, a job on the resume, and then your summer after your junior year, then ideally you're landing your internship. So no, this is not going to be the thing that kills your career. Good on your family for helping prepare you, and good on you for being thoughtful about this. Yeah, I think you're going to be fine. I don't think that's going to be the fact that you didn't have a job at a fast food joint. I don't think that's going to be the reason why you don't get the job. So, all right. Next one is for internship applications. Which one do you use? School email or a personal email address? That's a good question. I used my school email for internship applications because I knew that I was going to have access to it for the life of my internship. And it was just it was my school email was kind of my operating email address whenever I was in college. That was kind of what I ran everything through. So I used my school email. But if you have a very professional personal email address, you could probably use that. And definitely, whenever you're applying for your first full-time jobs out of school, you want to be using your personal email address because eventually you'll lose access to your school email, right? And then if you don't already have it already, um, make sure that you do have a professional looking first name, last name, some combination of letters and numbers, email address for your job applications coming out of school. Because Fire Lord Bomb Man 432 is not going to be the next professional engineer that I hire at my job. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah. I don't think it really matters, but I use my school email. It really more so matters whenever you're coming out of school than you'd use your personal email address. All right. Well, that was our internship advice. We're gonna take a quick breather and be right back with regular career advice. All right, and we are back with our career questions. The first question is, am I committing career suicide? Recently stumbled upon a job opportunity that really speaks to me, a dual enrollment mechanical engineering teacher at the high school I graduated from. But I am concerned that if I left my current job, Prog Tool Designer 2.5 YOE, for this role, I might never be able to make the jump back to engineering if I decide later that I want to. Any thoughts? I've always liked the idea of teaching as a way to give back, but pictured it more of as a part-time professing at a community college. Yeah, this would be, I agreed with the sentiment that this would be considered career suicide. I would not take this role. Um, yeah, it it would be a difficult thing to recover from, in my opinion. Um, Not only will you be missing out on a lot of potential income in the sense that you will be making a lot less money, you'll also miss out on the lucrative opportunities for financial growth in a career where you're able to make a lot more money and then get raises and incremental raises. As a teacher, you're kind of, I think that a lot of schools, the way it works is, at least this is how it worked whenever my wife was working in the schools, is that there's a pay increase and you get this certain amount of increase each year, and it is less than the kind of growth that you can get from job hopping and jumping your way through an engineering degree. You say in the comments, the thing that makes it more enticing at this point is that there's a pay cut for me now of only 10K, but if I make the switch later in life, the pay cut would be a lot bigger. Not sure if that's necessarily true, but that was my thinking. Oh, buddy. Yeah, but theoretically, this is the job that you don't take until you're like retired. Like, you should already have enough money saved for retirement, and you're just doing this to give back. There's other ways to give back. You can give back by volunteering at the local robotics club. You can give back by donating money to STEM initiatives for high school age kids. There are other ways to give back that are not completely handicapping your earning potential. This is the kind of job that somebody takes if they're ready to retire or if they've been trying to get an engineering job forever and they just can't. So, yes, this would be career suicide. You should not take this job. Remember, again, we talked about the whole area under the curve thing earlier in the episode. It's this is not the type of job that you take early on in your career because it's, slightly less of a pay cut and you can live with it. This is the kind of job that you take whenever you've already achieved all your other financial goals. You invested so much time and money and effort into getting the engineering degree. You should not be leaving the engineering industry and all the opportunities for growth in that industry to go back into the schools unless you are financially independent. Really. It's just, I know it sounds tempting, but there are other ways you can give back. You can volunteer, you can serve. There's other ways you can help young engineers get to the next step in their career. All right, next question is normalize quitting without advance notice? And they go on to say, I quit. I am terminating my employment at blank, effective immediately. I've accepted an offer for a senior engineer position at a better company. Please let the rest of the team know that it's a pleasure working with them. My keycard and bathroom key are under my keyboard. Happy Friday. To blank, 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 and 3 more. No, I don't think we should normalize that, to be honest. That's just, I know that you're saying that you don't care, you don't ever want to work with that company again, and you don't mind burning the bridge with that company, but look at that. Please let the rest of the team know it was a pleasure working with them. So there's people there that that you enjoyed working with, that you might want to keep a relationship with. Now all those people have to deal with the fact that you left without any notice, no turnover plan, no coverage, no documentation. Now all those people have to deal with that, and you may be applying for another job at another company one day, and they will say, hey, no, that person left without any notice and it really made my life hard. I don't want to work with them. Or your company is bidding on a job and your name comes up in the resume stack for a proposal, and then the other person just happens to either know that person or see that you have a mutual connection with them on LinkedIn. So then they reach out to the mutual connection and say, hey, so-and-so is nominated as the PM for this project. What's it like working with them? Are they good? No, they left my company with no notice. Again, you just don't, there's no reason to do this. You might think you're cool, edgy, whatever, but no, I don't agree with that. And the comments say, I give a 2-day notice. I'm leaving today. Thank you for the correction. A 2-day notice. I like the passive aggressive happy Friday. It isn't cute. Really, I get it. The dynamics are messed up. You know, the companies don't have to give you notice or whatever to lay you off or whatnot. But the reality is that there's a game you play where you give 2 weeks notice, you do handover, you kind of slack off sometimes or work hard during your notice period, and then you move on. And that's how it works. 2 weeks notice is considered professional. What you did was unprofessional. So now all the people that you've worked with, they're going to know you to be somebody that's unprofessional. And then that's just the badge that you carry with all those people and all the people that they know. So why would you tank your own reputation? I don't know. So yeah, no, I don't support that. All right, next one. And don't call me a corporate bootlicker or whatever for that either. I think that's pretty reasonable to not leave your teammates stranded. All right, next one. Recent PE, no raise yet. You go on to say, I started a new job recently back in November of 2024. I also recently passed my FE and obtained my license just a week or two ago. My company/managers are all aware of this, but no one has said anything about getting a raise or anything like that. From what I've heard on Reddit and from my friends, most companies automatically give a raise when someone becomes a PE, but in my case, it hasn't happened yet, and I'm still fairly new here and still doing onboarding. This is January of 2025. So I'm not sure if I should ask for this one soon or wait it out. In my opinion, my salary should be going up to match what a PE should make, but I'm still conflicted. Any thoughts or opinions? Thanks. Yeah, so I think that you should just ask your manager. You just can't. People have other jobs and other responsibilities, and again, you are the biggest indicator of your own compensation. You're the biggest indicator of your responsibilities, and you are the biggest indicator of your own career growth. So just say, "Hey, manager, I got my PE. What kind of salary increases does the company do for people that get a PE?" At some companies, it's a bonus. At some companies, it's a raise. The only thing that I think that might tank this a little bit is you started in November 2024, you got your PE and got your license, and this is January of 2025. Here's a question. Was you getting your PE within a couple years, a couple months of starting at the company, kind of a condition of your employment? Like, was it expected that you would go ahead and get your PE to qualify for the job? Because there's a chance that they're like, yeah, you said that we'd hire you, and you said that you get your PE within a couple months of getting your job, and that's it. There is a chance that that's the case, but I do think that you should get a little bit of a salary bump once you do get your PE, especially if you're doing a role that requires a PE. So a salary bump or bonus, whatever your company does. Yeah, those are things that are those are things. Those are things that happen. You get a PE and you get a raise. So instead of sitting around and waiting for it, you should bring it up and ask. Let's go to the comments. Comments say, just ask your manager what the company does for PE licenses in the way of compensation. My firm does a bonus, but only occasionally does a raise on the spot. Frustrating, but whatever. Next one is, now that you have your PE, any company will want you and will hire you. If your current role won't give you a raise, time to shop around and look for a new job. Yeah, you just got there like 3 months ago. But this is the one I'm concerned about. You're just hired and didn't negotiate a pay bump for getting your PE. You likely aren't getting anything. I doubt you'll see a raise until the end of 2025. Yeah, I mean that's the one thing. That's the one scenario that I'm a little bit concerned about is if you didn't if that wasn't if it was kind of just expected that you get your PE soon after starting the job, um, then you might be SOL. So, all right, again, you are the person that controls how conversations around your compensation happen. You have to be the one that leads those conversations. And in that same vein, let's go to the next question. Is it better to ask for a raise in the meeting regarding your annual salary increase or before? Ooh, interesting question. Let's go to the rest of the question. I am 4 years into my career, making around 45,000 currently. Oh, this is r/career advice. Okay, this is not an engineering career, but this is okay. 4-year engineer, but making 45,000. Okay, and I'm hoping to get closer to 60,000. I know I can find more money elsewhere, but I love my job and the benefits are really great. I don't want to regret leaving either, so I think it's worth a shot. I know I'll probably get a 3% raise for the annual with a 3 to 6% bonus opportunity, but I'm considering asking for more. Yeah, though 50% more or 30% more, it's going to be hard to get you to 60K. All right. Honestly, inflation has not made this easy. You're right. I live in a high cost of living area and you're making 45,000. High cost of living. Oh goodness. And trying to save for a home and children is next to impossible. Yeah, no, it is impossible. Um, it's making me sad and anxious. After retirement and insurance, I bring home a little over $2,000 a month gross. Half of that goes straight to my rent. I'm only putting 7% into my 401k too because I cannot afford to put in more. I'm debating whether it makes more sense to bring this up in my annual meeting regarding my salary increase, or if I could send an email before to see if my director can meet with me, looking for any input. Thanks in advance. Ooh, yeah. I think that you see your director, is that your direct manager or just your boss? If that is your boss, I hope that you're having more regular check-ins than your annual meeting. So at whatever your next check-in is, then you should be bringing it up then. And if you don't have a check-in between now and the annual meeting, you should probably just schedule a check-in and say, hey boss, here's where I'm at. This is what I'm expecting and going for whenever it comes to salary increases. Can we talk about it? See how close we can get to that between the now and the annual meeting? Because if you work at like a very, I don't know, a very formal company, the timing of your like a big company with like a very formal like promotion and increases structure sounds like that you get informed of what your raise is at that annual meeting. So it sounds like you need to have some conversations before then with your manager about expectations, to prepare yourself for getting a better recommendation ahead of that annual meeting for increase. $45,000 in a high cost of living area is bad. Like, hey Siri, how many dollars per hour is $45,000 a year?
Okay, I found this on the web for how many dollars per hour is $45,000 a year. Check it out.
All right. It says you said your take home is $2,000 a year. Oh, your hourly rate is like 21.63. It's about, yeah, that's $21. I know that people make less than that in high cost of living areas, but that's just not, especially if you're like 4 years into like a working a job that is a career, like a legit like career. Not just like working a job, but like you're building a set of skills and you have a career and skills that are marketable to other companies. I would schedule the conversation with the manager, and then if you are in an industry that's in demand, then go ahead and start also looking for other jobs elsewhere, because it's going to make it a lot easier for your director to justify getting you to 60K whenever you have an offer for 65, 70K in hand. But 45 to 60 is a big jump, even though they're paying you a ridiculously low amount of money, $45,000 a year in a high cost of living area. Whew, yeah, it's just going to be a really hard bump. So just asking for it, you're not really in a position of power to get that 60K. So yeah, I would start the communication now. So ask for it now, and kind of keep the ball moving between now and the annual meeting. And then I'd also put my foot outside the door and start looking for other jobs elsewhere, because I think you're going to find it very difficult to get a $15,000 raise on top of a $45,000 a year annual salary, regardless of how low the $45,000 a year is. So yeah. Oof, that is tough. I'm sorry that you're going through that. Whew. All right. Next question is, wife in electrical engineering, how do I support her better? My wife is an electrical engineer, recently passed the PE with about 5 years of experience. We met in the Army and transitioned out to spend more time with our kids and go to an environment which was hopefully more friendly and progressive. She was an electrical engineer undergrad and decided to continue in engineering. The problem is every job she has worked, she's been surrounded by racist, misogynistic, and old men for coworkers, 65 plus. Man, yeah, this company sounds like they need to hire more of those white men under the age of 60 that we talked about in the LinkedIn Lunatic segment of the podcast. We are no strangers to misogyny, but we were hoping it would be better on the civilian side. She's had 2 different jobs since, and it's hard. And it's hard because we have to wonder if we're the problem, since it just seems to be an issue everywhere we go. Are other women experiencing this? How do I support my wife going through this outside of active listening and emotional support and decompression? It's been extremely bad lately because her 70-year-old coworker goes on 3-hour-long monologues and will lash out at her if she doesn't listen. He actively undermines other people on his calls with her. I've overheard them myself. Additionally, she will present ideas to her teams and gets questioned so aggressively she just says okay excitedly and doesn't talk again. Then a lot of the time they will implement her idea a week later. I feel terrible seeing her come home from work every day mentally exhausted, and was wondering what you yourselves and your partners are doing to help. Is it just the field as a whole, or is there a way forward? It's the company that she's working at. There are better cultures out there. I would argue that my company is one of them. And there's ways to tell, right? What kind of employee network groups, employee support groups that company has in place, the demographics of the people that your wife is interviewing with whenever she's interviewing for a job. Those are things that you can kind of feel out for. So what I'd say is, I know it's been 2 different jobs since you've gotten out of the military. 5 years experience though. Yeah, I think you just gotta hunt for a job in a better environment. And even if she has kind of some shorter stints on her resume, when you find the right company and you explain the reason why you're leaving, especially to a woman that's interviewing you and has been through it as well, then there's going to be a level of understanding there, because I think a lot of women have gone through that. Unfortunately, that is just a symptom, I think, of the world in general, but it can be more prevalent in engineering because it is such a male-dominated industry for now. Maybe we're heading further into that direction now with the way that things are going right now. But hopefully, we've been making a lot of progress to make it less of a male-dominated industry up to this point. in the recent years. So there are companies and cultures that exist that are better for your wife. So what I'd say is encourage her and let her know that it is not her. It's not her fault. It is the fault of the person that she's interacting with. Um, in the current role, I wonder if it could be a company thing. It could be a team thing. If she has a manager that isn't this person, then maybe she could reach out to that manager and say, hey, I'm really struggling working with this individual. Can we look at maybe moving me to a different team? Which is unfortunate because you'd much rather that other guy get moved to a different team. But if your wife can make a lateral move within the company to a better environment, that might be something to look into. And at the same time, I'd start throwing the resume around and looking for other jobs. And then you, as the spouse, to support her, is encourage her that it's fine that she's looking for other jobs. Support her in trying to find the right career and working environment. Support her in that. And then, help out around the house and give her that time. Say, hey, let me do this so that you have some more time to get a couple more applications in or that kind of stuff. But just be encouraging. It's not her. It is not her. So, goodness, I'm so sorry that she's going through that. I've talked to too many women that have gone through the same thing. But there are better work cultures out there. There really are. So that's what I have to say. All right, next question is, I hate how employers are so obsessed with soft skills when finding a job. Go on to say, I lost the whole thing. All right, so I don't actually have the original question, but I do have my original response. So I said, lots to unpack here. College by nature is very social. Lots of people in the same place, sometimes living in the same spaces. Group projects. The workplace is also a very social space. Soft skills are critical. The manner in which you deliver information is important. To be successful in the professional world, you need to be able to work on teams of people and influence other people to help you achieve whatever the objective of your role is. Based on your post, it does sound like you're neurodivergent, and maybe this kind of thing is difficult for you. Okay, I don't remember what made me think that that's the case, but apparently I thought that was the case. Maybe that's a bad thing for me to assume. I hope you recognize that this is important, and while you don't have to be an extreme extrovert or the master of soft skills, having some soft skills is critical to be successful, and your ability to navigate the workplace with tact will correlate to your career success. If you're not in therapy, I suggest considering therapy to work through your aversion to developing soft skills, and your therapist may be able to refer you to other programs where you can develop your soft skills. Also, if you have any personal hobbies or interests, putting yourself in scenarios with other people with the same interests and hobbies is a great way to socialize. So OP was struggling with socialization in general. And I went on to say, OP, I realize you were venting, but I hope my comment is helpful and wish you the best of luck in your career. Somehow that got downvoted. And then other people say, companies want to be sure that the people they hire can communicate and work well as a part of a team, and I'm sure college coursework includes team projects, which help build negotiation skills, peer reviewing, and taking responsibilities. I'd use that experience when discussing soft skills. So, yeah, it stinks to run into, I guess, something. Hey, if you're not an extrovert and you don't get energy out of communicating and talking to people, that's rough. But demonstrating soft skills is important because, again, people need people that are willing to be a good team member. So just demonstrating. The big thing I think that you can talk about in the interviews, if people are hitting on soft skills, is just talk about sometimes that you've worked really well as a part of a team in one of your school projects, or maybe one of your personal hobbies, something that you were working on with your friends. Maybe you were playing a board game or like doing like a canoeing or something fun like that. And like, hey, we were canoeing and we did this together, and that was a good time especially if you're early in your career, you can come up with like a example like that. Once you get into your career, then you can talk about the dynamics that you've managed within your career environment. But yeah, soft skills are important. I'm sorry that it's an extrovert's world in many ways, but not all extroverts are good at soft skills, by the way. There are plenty of extroverts that really struggle at being effective communicators. Some of them get on podcasts and ramble for extended periods of time, and then they don't have a coherent thought after that. I wonder who those people are. All right. Next one. Ooh. I had to pass up. Employer wanted a 1 hour job shadow for the second round interview. I just had to pass up what I thought was a solid opportunity because this company wanted me to come in and do a job shadow for an hour as part of their interview process. To make matters worse, the recruiter started pushing back and arguing when she didn't like that I said no. Sorry, not sorry. This says a lot about the recruiting process and not a good way. No wonder this position is open. If you ask me, it sounds like unpaid work. In my last sales role, the virtual job shadowing I did happened after I completed training. Well, okay. Well, first of all, this is a second round interview, right? So you had a recruiter screening. Now you're going to go interview with the team. How long is your interview going to be with the hiring manager? Approximately an hour. All right. So they're giving you an hour to go shadow the hiring manager. Is it really a difference in the use of your time? You said you're shadowing. You said it sounds like unpaid work. What about you shadowing and following somebody through their day-to-day is unpaid work? No, this just seems like looking for a reason to get upset for no reason. And they've screened you out. The job's open because they didn't hire you, and they effectively screened you out because you want to be difficult for no reason. Now I can understand if you already have a current job, why, openly shadowing somebody working with another company, like another third party outside of that company. If it's sales, if you're following them on a sales call, that could be a little bit confusing because you're not an employee of that company and you may have a current job. So you wouldn't want to do anything outward facing. But I mean, just like following the manager around and meeting the team and seeing what they do on their day to day for an hour. That sounds like an awesome second interview. Like they want you to come into the office and meet the team. That sounds like a great on-site interview. So it's not strange. It's pretty normal. And so the top comment says, as long as it's not a working interview, that's not that strange. So yeah, it's not like they're asking you to do anything for them. They're just asking you to come and say hi. Some places like to see how you interact with other employees and the types of work that they do. You can tell a lot about a person based on what types of questions they ask about the work process. And depending on the job, the industry, a job shadow could actually be a really important test. And you failed, OP. You failed. You failed because you were unwilling to even go in and do the shadow. So, no, this is not unreasonable. Maybe I should have done this in the LinkedIn Lunatics section of the podcast, but no, it's not unusual for a shadow. I know whenever I was interviewing for my last job, I got to go do an on-site interview and then I got to go around to meet the team for like 15 minutes. And that was great. I got to ask them about what they do and what their role is and what their day-to-day is and see how I interact with them and what kind of support and tools and team members I'd have. And that was really good. It was very valuable for me in deciding whether or not I wanted to take the job. So, yeah, different employers have different hiring practices. So I don't know what to say for you. All right. Last question of them all is thoughts on co-ed business trips. I work for a smaller company and we often need to travel for site visits, as-built, or career fairs. Plenty of the time we wind up sending 2 employees, usually a lead and a younger team member who is learning. Since our company is about 50-50 male and female, a lot of these trips are co-ed. I've never really thought much of it before. Recently, a female employee asked if we could send an additional female on a trip she was scheduled on because she wasn't totally comfortable spending the whole day with a male. She claimed it had little to do with the specific person, and I believe her. So far, I've only asked one other professional who said he was surprised my company did co-ed trips, that his doesn't at all. So now I'm wondering if there's an industry norm I didn't know about. What are you used to seeing? They're not staying in the same hotel room. They better not be. Usually professionals get their own hotel room, right? The co-ed business trips are pretty normal. Like something needs to be done. You pick the people that can go on the trip and that can contribute, and then you they go to work and they do the job. It's professional, right? There's no, and this employee has said that it has little to do with the specific person, and you believe her, then um, I I'm not a woman, so maybe my take on this is not the right take. So let me know if you disagree. But I mean, some of these projects, I mean, say you have a $30,000 to $50,000 lump sum project, and you have one field trip budgeted, and that's maybe $1,500 of your field trip budget of your project budget. Sending a third person would be another almost $1,000. That would completely kill the budget for the project. And you need to send two people, and so no, you don't have a room in the budget to send a third person. And if this girl can't go because she's not comfortable going by herself with a man, then I, unfortunately, I'd probably just reach out to another team member that's willing to go and say, hey, so and so can't go. Would anybody else be willing to go? And that's really unfortunate. I mean, that sucks, but I think that you need to do you press her on it? I don't know. Let's go to the comments and see if I can come up with a more formed thought on this. We have people, because every environment that I've ever worked in, like people have, this is a new thing for me. I've never heard of this being a thing. We have people travel on co-ed teams all the time, separate rooms, of course, but they often share a rental car. If somebody was uncomfortable being the only woman, I'm sure we'd find a way to accommodate them. Though we've had to fire some guys for inappropriate comments directed at women coworkers, at least in part. They effed up in other ways as well. You need a counter of accountability or respect. And then she said that she claimed it had little to do with the specific person. Had little or nothing. Ooh, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to do. Yeah. Again, if it's non-optional, then I mean, it's one thing. If it's like overhead, like a career fair, that kind of thing, it's not optional. Then maybe you can try to find some more budget and send another senior woman engineer to go with this person. But then I would have a follow-up conversation with the girl and say, hey, like, can we talk about this a little bit more? Like, are you sure you say it has little to do with this person? Is it little to do? Is it nothing to do? Like, did something happen? Can you be honest with me here? Like, and kind of root out the issue, because if the issue is that she's gotten some uncomfortable comments from that person, then I'm gonna accommodate her, right? And then I'm going to deal with it with my leadership on the back end of that. I think I wouldn't want to punish her for sharing that she had a legitimate concern for a legitimate reason. But if it's just that, like, she in general will never travel without another woman on the business trip, then I don't think that that's a reasonable expectation. I mean, what if you're traveling alone? Do you need another, like she needs to be able to fulfill the responsibilities of her job. And as long as there isn't a hostile work environment, right, then her working with men is just going to be it's going to be one of the responsibilities of her job. And if she can't fulfill that responsibility, I would have a candid conversation with her and say, hey, like, part of your job expectation is that you're going to have to go on trips to do, as-builts, site visits. And the reality is that we send two people to do these things. And if we send a third person and we price it up for a third person, we're not going to be competitive. We're going to lose the work. And if we can't send you every single time that there isn't a senior woman, then you're going to miss out on opportunities to go on site visits and learn. And it's not because we're unwilling to accommodate you. It's just because that you're not able to fulfill a responsibility and part of your job. This might be controversial, but I don't think that that's something that is a reasonable thing. I think that Also, maybe setting her up with your employee assistance program and saying, hey, I think that you have, just connect her to the employee assistance program, and then maybe they might connect her to like therapy or a therapist that might kind of help her talk through and work through that, whatever anxiety that she has that prevents her from being willing to work with other men in general. But I'm wondering in this case if there actually was something that happened. I would be more surprised. I'd be less surprised than anything that if there was anything. I wouldn't be surprised to hear if something had happened, and maybe she just doesn't want to be the one that brings it up and get retaliation. Maybe the guy just gives her the ick. And she doesn't want to say that. I mean, that could be the case, but if that's not the case, then you gotta have a serious conversation with her about like what the expectations of her role is. So, all right, on that controversial note, I'm gonna send this episode to all the woman engineers that I know that are in the audience, and maybe you guys can help me chime in on this. And maybe we'll do a follow up. To this on the next episode of the podcast, because that's a really good one.
12 sleepless hours later.
The reality is, and if you're watching on video, you can see that I've changed clothes, and I spent last night talking to some woman that I trust, and thinking about this is that what I would say is he's expected to be a professional, as are you. You're both expected to be professionals. If he's not been a professional, I need to know. Because I need to know why I can't send two professionals to do a job that I'm paying two professionals to do. And if it just is that she's not comfortable, then I'd say, hey, the expectation of your role is that in a safe and professional environment, you're going to go out on site visits. And if you don't, then I'm going to find somebody else. And it's not a you thing. It's I need two people to do this job. So if there is not anything that he's done to make you feel uncomfortable, then we're going to need to work through this. Because if you keep on having to pay three people to do a job for two people, are you going to be successful in business? Probably not. And she is going to have to learn how to work with men in her career. That is, being somewhere with a man for an entire day, her and the man out at a site. If that is, and there are so many other things that come through this. She might have a significant other that's controlling. She might have and maybe some people that haven't grown up in a household where their family members are professionals, or their partner that they're dating hasn't grown up in a household where their family members are professionals. Maybe they don't get that, and there might be outside circumstances, but the reality is to fulfill the responsibilities of her job, she needs to be a professional. To fulfill the responsibility of his job, the other person needs to be a professional too. And this is just an aspect of professionalism. So, all right, guys. Well, that was this episode of Engineering Success. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked it, share it. Let me know. Leave a comment on Spotify and the YouTube comments. Share the video with somebody that you think would enjoy the podcast. And if you're looking to be a guest on the podcast, shoot me an email at daniel@engringsuccess.com. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much.
Miscommunicating, I'm miscommunicating. I just made a pilot, then they threw me on the stations. Now I'm not complaining, My thoughts get complicated, I cannot explain in layman's. Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.